back to the JMC Reviews. Today, I'm going to be attempting to do something that I've never tried to do before on this show. I'm going to be doing a top 10 list.
Made on the advice of another YouTuber whose content I enjoy very much.
Of what exactly? Those who are familiar with me will probably know that I love watching bad movies, both as a reviewer and just in my own spare time. For reviewing purposes, a bad movie can give you a lot to work with in terms of jokes, and even if a movie is not well done, that doesn't mean it can't be entertaining. When you come down to it, there are three types of bad movies. Movies that are so bad they piss you off, movies that are so bad they bore you to sleep, and lastly, movies that are so bad they make you laugh. The so poorly made that they're enjoyable category, and trust me, I've seen a lot of those over the years, and a few of these that we're going to be covering today I've actually reviewed. So without further ado, this is my top 10 list of the most rewatchable bad movies.
Ugh. Where did they come up with this stuff?
How do they even call that a movie?
I don't know.
I liked it.
You did?
Mm.
I didn't. But thanks.
Number 10. The Island of Dr. Moreau. This 1996 adaptation of H.G. Wells' novel is one of the most well-known cluster fuck flops in cinematic history. The film follows a UN negotiator, played by David Thewlis, who winds up trapped on a mysterious island run by the mad scientist of the title, Dr. Moreau, played by Marlon Brando. He discovers that Moreau, along with his drug addict assistant, Montgomery, played by Val Kilmer, are creating hybrid beings using human and animal DNA. And in between all that, he starts a kinda, sorta relationship with a cat lady, played by Fairuza Balk. To be honest, I almost didn't include this movie on the list because, despite its reputation, I don't think it's as bad as it's been made out to be. While a bit muddled, the movie's themes do make you think. There is a story that keeps you interested to the very end, and there are quite a few unsettling horror moments. That being said, there is no denying this movie is an unfocused, uneven, technical mess. The editing and scene transitions are random and fucking confusing. Character motivation and development is almost non-existent. The dialogue can get extremely pretentious. And the film's style is all over the place. A lot of this can be attributed to the film's unbelievably chaotic production. The film's original director, then newcomer Richard Stanley, spent nearly 4 years developing the project, and less than 4 days into filming, he was fired, mostly stemming from issues caused by Val Kilmer. The studio brought in veteran director John Frankenheimer, who ended up having his own trouble trying to manage Kilmer, Brando, and the film's unruly production. The making of The Island of Dr. Moreau was such a catastrophe that they made a whole documentary about it.
Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer were there to mess with the film as much as possible.
If I was directing a film called The Life of Val Kilmer, I wouldn't have that prick in it.
Knowing that the odds were stacked against me, I resorted to witchcraft.
Lunatic movie that's known as one of the worst films ever made.
Despite all these flaws, I still feel the film makes for a pretty engaging watch. Its troubled production and mesh of visions is just fascinating and gives viewers a lot to analyze and debate. The creature makeup effects by Stan Winston are incredible. The atmosphere, despite the mismatched styles, can be pretty foreboding. And a majority of the cast do great jobs. Val Kilmer, lack of character development aside, plays a great unhinged bastard. And Marlon Brando, even on his worst just doing it for the money day, still gives a performance most actors could only hope to give during their careers. So yeah, the film may be a bit batshit, but it's an experience you won't forget. I totally recommend checking it out at least once. Number 9. Kinjite, Forbidden Subjects. When it comes to action stars who continue to kick ass and shoot bad guys on the big screen past the age of 60, no one shined better than the original gruff old-timer, Charles Bronson. Finding international success in his 50s, Charles Bronson reigns supreme as the ultimate big screen anti-hero. And the 1980s cemented him as an action icon, often playing aging vigilantes who, while having flawed moral compasses, usually had a decent heart and always made sure the bad guys got their just desserts. Bronson's most frequent collaborator during this period was director J. Lee Thompson. Together, they knew how to deliver a violent but fun, gritty flick. In 1989, just as the decade of excess was coming to a close, the two collaborated one last time for Kinjite Forbidden Subjects. And sadly, it was clear that these two old goats were starting to run out of steam. Charles Bronson stars as an LA vice detective obsessively trying to take down a child prostitution ring run by a ruthless pimp played by Juan Fernandez. The latest kid to be taken into this ring is the daughter of a Japanese businessman. Bronson finds it hard to work this latest kidnapping, partially due to being a racist, but also because his daughter was recently sexually assaulted by an unknown Asian man. And in the mother of all coincidences, the Japanese businessman whose daughter has been forced into child prostitution is the same motherfucker who touched Bronson's daughter.
What happened, Rita? Some Oriental guy touched my holy of holy. Holy shit.
One of this film's biggest issues is, despite its extremely dark subject matter, the overall tone is pretty goofy.
You like young pussy, don't deny. I saw you sitting with a poon pie. She's worth $5,000 a week, man.
The execution gets so ridiculous, you gotta wonder, was this meant to be a comedy?
Jesus Christ. Who the fuck are you? Fuck you and your badge. You can't come in here like that and abuse somebody's privacy. Come on, fuckhead! Fucker!
This was J. Lee Thompson's final film as a director. Chalk it up to old age or having done so many vigilante movies by this point, but it comes off like he was on autopilot and just going through the motions. As for Charles Bronson, I love the man, but the writing for this character is so over the top, very few actors could come out of this not looking silly.
You're obstructing the sidewalk, your goddamn cars are obstructing the thoroughfare, and you're fucking obstructing me.
And even for a dude who made a reputation as the king of vigilante movies, the film has him do a lot of shit that is pretty hard to defend.
I don't know! I swear to God I don't know! I'm stupid!
What do we do with the boots?
But for all its unintentionally hilarious flaws, it's still a movie about Charles Bronson fucking up pedophiles. How can you not get enjoyment out of that? It's also fun to see him attempt to slip into a character who's so unaware of how twisted he is, you'd swear Steven Seagal wrote the script. He does things you'd never see a normal action star do. For example, in one scene, Bronson busts a man with an underage hooker. What does he do? He beats the snot out of the miserable cunt, bends him over a bed, and while we don't explicitly see it, it's pretty much confirmed in later dialogue that he raped the guy with a dildo. Try to imagine Dwayne Johnson doing something like that.
If you smell who the rock is violent.
Is it the first Charles Bronson film I categorize as ridiculous? No, but it is the first one I considered overall bad, but nonetheless, it proved to be a laughable ride in its depraved lunacy. The Asian characters are bound to raise a few eyebrows, but that's the type of 80s political incorrectness that riff-happy assholes like me just love to gorge on.
You know them kikes. They own everything as it is.
The Jews don't own everything.
The Arabs won't let them.
Arabs, what the hell is that? Just a nigger wrapped up in a sheet.
We also get an early appearance from Danny Trejo as a thug eager to show child rapists the romantic side of jail.
Hey, sweet thing. I got something big and long for you.
Hey, pretty boy.
Oh, boy.
Number 8. Not of This Earth. More specifically, the 1980 remake of the 1950s Roger Corman drive-in film directed by Jim Wynorski. For full context, let me explain. In 1957, B-movie king Roger Corman made a low-budget horror film about an alien who comes to Earth to harvest human blood in the hopes that it'll save his dying planet. Basically, it's a vampires from outer space type of movie. A human nurse, played by the amazing Beverly Garland, is the first to notice and really investigate the bizarre visitor's diabolical plan. She finds herself in a spot where she could save the world, or become his next victim. Despite being a B-movie directed by Roger Corman, the original Not of This Earth is actually really fucking good. It's short, sweet, and legitimately chilling. The 1988 remake...
A Duke can protect me! Yeah, you get them all.
Not so much. Produced by Roger Corman himself, the directing chair was given to Jim Wynorski, a B-movie and exploitation legend in his own right. Think a modern, extra pervy version of Ed Wood. This movie was basically a cut-and-paste remake, going off of the original film's script almost scene for scene, line for line, and replicating nearly every shot. There were just two big differences. While the 1957 version was straightforward horror, the 1988 version plays off the original story like a comedy. A questionable choice that leads to more awkwardness than laughs. Second big difference? Tits. Lots and lots of tits. Not that I'm complaining. If there's any absolute truth in this world, it's that Jim Wynorski loves breasts.
I like to get two lights. Something that lights breasts really well.
Some soft lights?
Yes.
Speaking of which, the thing the 1988 Not of This Earth is best known for is being the first non-porn role for controversial ex-adult film actress Tracy Lords. For those who don't know, Tracy Lords was once one of the biggest names in porn. She was on fire in the 80s. Until it came out that she had lied about her age and the majority of her work was made while she was a goddamn minor.
Oh boy.
Following a shit ton of scandals and federal investigations, Lord successfully entered the non-porn world of filmmaking. Made not too long after she turned 18, Not of This Earth was the only non-adult film where she ever took her clothes off. So if you ever wanted to see Tracy Lords naked and not end up on some watch list, this is the flick to see.
Duly noted.
A big appeal of watching this version is comparing the near-replicated scenes to the original, how different the execution is, and just how impossible it is to take any of it seriously. While the comedy isn't anything to write home about, there are a few moments that get a good snicker.
You will be the next subject I send to Davana.
Hey, Klingon!
The acting doesn't hold a candle to the original, but you can tell these motherfuckers are having a blast. And say what you will about Jim Wynorski, the man does know how to make a sexy-ass movie.
Make sure you have a little action, a couple of good-looking babes. You can't really lose.
Also, a fun game to play is trying to spot how many shots are lifted from previous Roger Corman productions. No joke, 10 to 50% of this movie is stock footage from other films. Why? Because it's a whole lot cheaper than actually filming original scenes.
Do you know anything about the art of film production?
Well, I like to think so.
Was it a necessary remake? No, but it is 100 times more watchable than Gus Van Sant's Psycho.
We do not speak his name.
Number 7. Firebird, 2015 AD. Writing off the post-apocalyptic craze started by the Mad Max franchise, this 1981 Canadian action film takes place in the now come and long gone future year of 2015, where the United States has hit a fuel shortage so low that automobiles have been outlawed in an effort to conserve gas. A group of rebels, dubbed the Burners, race cars out in the middle of the desert as some way of fighting the system. Sure. They're led by an old-time driver, played by Darren McGavin, the dad from A Christmas Story, who drives the Firebird of the title. The Burners find themselves hunted down and killed by a sadistic group of government police called the DVC, led by a tight-ass Git, played by Doug McClure. His group consists of 2 incompetent shitheads, a woman with a gnawing conscience who showers with her clothes on, and a psychotic rapist Indian that I'm sure would piss off some oversensitive group. Loading up their tanks, McGavin assembles his team of burners, his wet blanket son, who speaks with a half-British, half-American accent, a crusty, white-bearded old coot, and the old guy's horny, dopey-faced, dune buggy driving daughter. They go against the DVC in the hopes of bringing freedom.
That's retarded.
This ultra-low-budget flick found itself confined almost entirely to the desert with barely a dozen actors. Clearly, all the money went to the cars and pyrotech effects. The plot makes no sense, and characters' motivations make even less. The most absurd aspect is how the DVC is so willing to slaughter any bitch using gas when they themselves get around using motorcycles. Now, they could be using some sort of alternative fuel, but they never say that, so for all we know, these assholes are just wasting tons of that oh-so-valuable gasoline. Can you say fucking hypocrites?
The audacity! The unmitigated gall!
Hell, McGavin states that alternate fuel can be made.
If I had to, I could make fuel out of bullshit. And there is no scarcity of that in this world.
So really, this gas shortage and law against driving shouldn't even be a fucking thing! And those are just samples of this confusing-ass plotline. Watching it unfold is like getting buzzed on fumes and laughing all the way. And on the legit good side, the car stunts and explosions are actually really good. What the movie lacks in logic and screenwriting, it makes up for in good old vehicular destruction. And it has a kickin' theme song.
Riding for our freedom. This Firebird ain't bird out yet. We're gonna fly, they'll never shoot us down.
Number 6. Zaat. Along with Octoman, 1971 was quite the year for Creature from the Black Lagoon knockoffs. Zaat is the drifting tale of a mad scientist, played by Marshall Grower, who plans to take over the world by transforming humans into fish monsters. He starts the plan by turning himself into a giant sea monster and then releasing his formula into the local town's water supply. He also unleashes an army of walking catfish onto the county to cause havoc. The local police and a team of scientists struggle to figure out what the fuck is going on. The monster doctor takes time for a side mission to kill his former colleagues who mocked him, and at one point seems to develop the need to suck human blood to survive. Near the end, he becomes obsessed with turning the female scientist, played by Sana Ringaver, into his sea monster bride. The only thing more disorganized than the scientist's plan is the film's direction. Originally, the plot was supposed to have the monster making giant catfish and having them terrorize the countryside. This idea was squashed when the miniature sets and real catfish proved to be too much of a bitch to work with, prompting a massive script rewrite in the middle of filming. The movie's director and co-writer, Don Barton, clearly bit off more than he could chew with the production's $50,000 budget. The storyline is all over the goddamn map, and so many scenes just consist of characters standing around or walking around in a daze. And while that may sound boring, the movie is surprisingly very engaging. It's got no focus and no real resolution, but it keeps you interested. The kills are surprisingly bloody. A majority of the film's cast never acted in another movie, which is sad because just about every actor here is pretty solid. As trick-or-treat looking as it is, the monster costume is pretty damn gnarly.
Make this Halloween your Halloween at Spirit's Halloween Superstore.
The most random moment, and that's saying something, is when the town sheriff stumbles into a rec center filled with a bunch of Jesus hippies, and the movie takes a 5-minute break from evil doctors and catfish for a song.
All my life, people told me I should follow. When I got down with and that following knew just what I had to do. Well, Jesus gathered his disciples. Yeah, turned to him and then they turned to you. Yeah, when they got done with that turning, they knew just what they had to do.
Now, I hate hippies and I hate religion even more, but I will admit, this song is pretty catchy.
Dirty hide, feet inside, so you go back to the land another judgment day. People told me I should follow. I knew just what I had to do.
Drunken storytelling notwithstanding, Zaat is at times admirable given all the filmmakers were able to put together despite the obvious limitations. It was showcased on Mystery Science Theater 3000, although under the alternate title Blood Waters of Dr. Z. That pretty much cemented Zaat as one of the must-check-out bad movies. Number 5. You're the Hunter from the Future. I guess it makes sense that I include at least one film made by an Italian fruitcake. You're the Hunter from the Future comes from Antonio Margheriti, billed here as Anthony M. Dawson, and it is one of the most bonkers movies you will ever see. Starring B-movie cult icon Reb Brown, the film follows Yor, an extremely muscled, very sexy, and pretty dumb caveman who wanders through the barren desert in search of his destiny or some shit. Along the way, he encounters various cave folk, dinosaurs, cause I guess they coexist with humans in this world, giant bats, sand cults, and a pack of blue-skinned pillagers/rapists. Proving harder to kill than Law & Order's longevity, Yor picks up a new woman at almost every stop he makes, and while the cave bitches are ready to kill each other for his buff, wig-wearing ass, the cave bros have a completely different attitude.
Among our people, a man can have many wives, so why can't Yor have 2?
Everything culminates with Yor discovering this world is not in ancient times, but in the far future after the apocalypse, switching from action fantasy to science fiction. The movie tries to treat this like it's a big surprise, and it could have been if the film's title had not been The Hunter from the Future. Seriously, this movie is an odyssey of brainless fun that only an Italian filmmaker could shit out. We got dead bats being used as hang gliders, dinosaur blood drinking, unbelievably sexist undertones, a hero unintentionally killing so many innocent people, it gives John Landis a run for his money, dog cone wearing robots, laser guns, an evil overlord whose apparent legal name is actually Overlord, and an old fat man doing stunts that even an Olympic gymnast wouldn't attempt. As is part of the course with most Italian productions, the cast is very obviously dubbed.
Now we fight, and the prize will be this woman here.
What did you call him? The Overlord? Who's that?
Even good old American boy Reb Brown.
The blood of your enemy makes you stronger.
You believe you're God, but you think like a murderer.
And while that does spare us from his usual awkward attempts to act, it unfortunately denies us from hearing his legendary yell. Laced with yet another kick-ass theme song, You're the Hunter from the Future is a wild trip I guarantee you will never forget. It could be one of the only films you can call both the greatest and the worst movie you've ever seen. Number 4. Fantasy Mission Force. Oh boy, if you thought Yor was insane, you ain't seen nothing yet, bitch.
Have you no shame, Moreau? I hate you! Goodbye!
This This Hong Kong-produced flick is the type of mindfuck that'll leave you scratching your head for a goddamn week. Taking place during World War II, a group of Allied generals are captured by the Japanese. After assessing various candidates, which, no joke, included James Bond, Rocky Balboa, and Snake Plissken?
I have so many questions.
The Chinese send in Lieutenant Don Yen, played by Jimmy Wang Yu. After putting together a team of crooked fighters, the Fantasy Mission Force set out on a mission to rescue the generals. On this quest, we get Asian guys in Scottish kilts, a tribe of Amazon women, sumo wrestlers, bazookas, the group spending the night in a haunted house, and even a musical number. Also, Jackie Chan appears every now and then. Yeah, Jackie fucking Chan is in this movie. He only did the film as a favor to Jimmy Wang Yu, and despite only having a handful of scenes, the movie was marketed as if he was the star, which is pretty much the only reason why I even bought this VHS tape over a decade ago. The film's finale has its group of two-faced cunts facing down the Japanese, who come rolling in cars that are clearly not from the 1940s, covered in Nazi symbols.
What the hell is going on around here? Who the hell are you people?
Filled with horrible editing, piss-poor over-the-top dubbing, and throwing everything in but the kitchen sink style of writing, Fantasy Mission Force is undeniably retarded. But it is the type of retarded that can only be described as glorious. It takes a lot to top Cannonball Run 2 as the most nonsensical Jackie Chan movie, but this crap doesn't.
To me, you look like clowns. Hey! Come back here!
Number 3. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Before you say anything, yes, this fucking movie. Primarily self-funded and under his complete control, the Star Wars prequel trilogy was George Lucas doing whatever the hell he wanted with no one to reel him in, resulting in strong visuals and good story ideas, but misguided execution and dialogue Michael Bay would roll his eyes at. I'm in the minority of folk who actually feel The Phantom Menace is the easiest to sit through of this cocked-up trilogy. Attack of the Clones, for all its stellar action, is a long trek filled with some of the worst romance scenes you will ever see. And Revenge of the Sith, often called the only good Star Wars prequel, it's got its good stuff, but the stilted wooden acting is a huge turnoff for me.
He is like my brother. I cannot do it. I don't know where to look.
Phantom Menace is the only prequel where the acting is all around decent, and having enjoyable characters goes a long way in my book. Yes, the movie's plot is extremely contrived, filled with political discourse that no one can follow, sidetracking subplots, and the early stages of an age gap romance that should raise a lot more eyebrows. But if there's one thing you can't fault the Star Wars prequel trilogies for, it's the action. The action in this film is fucking awesome. The field battles, space battles, the pod racing, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it features probably the greatest lightsaber duel of all time. Admittedly, the film's inclusion on this list is based mostly on nostalgia. As a stupid little kid, this was the Star Wars film that I went back to and rewatched the most, and it's said that George Lucas made The Phantom Menace primarily for little kids, so I guess in that respect, he succeeded.
It's debatable.
And as for the film's most hated aspects, Ahmed Best as Jar Jar Binks and Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker, I don't like Jar Jar, but I personally never found him as annoying as most filmgoers. To me, he's just there, adds nothing but doesn't destroy the whole movie. As for Jake Lloyd, I honestly think he did a good job. He delivers his lines a hell of a lot better than most child actors. Whatever negatives these characters have falls solely on George Lucas's writing. The hate these actors received was vile and completely undeserved. Star Wars has gone through many ups and downs over the years due to the unfocused, misguided directors, but you can't deny that George Lucas put his heart into these movies, and as messy as The Phantom Menace is, the passion is clearly there. Plus, it has Liam Neeson as the main character. That automatically makes it watchable.
I like Liam Neeson. Then send him a message about the roles he chooses.
Number 2. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. The last of the original Christopher Reeve film series, this superhero misfire put Superman on a cinematic hiatus for almost 20 years. Going off a script co-written by Reeve, the film tries to tackle the subject of the nuclear arms race. Superman goes about solving the problem by literally grabbing every nuclear missile and tossing them into the sun. Lex Luthor, played for the last time by Gene Hackman, creates a villain to stop Supes, a leather bar-looking knucklehead named Nuclear Man, played by Mark Pillow. Even if you're against nuclear weapons, there's no denying this movie is preachy, pretty much crossing into propaganda. The film's budget was significantly cut down from the previous entries, resulting in special effects so bad, you'd swear this movie was made for the fucking Disney Channel. Superman 4 is undeniably the worst Superman movie ever made, but you know what? I just love every second of it. The incompetence of this once proud franchise is a hilarious spectacle to behold. Plus, it's only 90 minutes, so it's a pretty easy sit. And while his writing is nothing to brag about, Christopher Reeve is fucking Superman. And something I liked about the latter sequels was that he was allowed to expand the Clark Kent persona. Such as meeting a woman played by Mariel Hemingway who falls for him as Kent instead of Superman. I just always found that interesting. And of course, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman is one of those actors who's so good that even if the movie he's starring in is shit, with him in it, it immediately becomes shit with class. He even gets the best line in the movie.
Nobody wants war. I just want to keep the threat alive.
The Quest for Peace is an overly preachy, clunky mess, but it's harmless at the end of the day and has enough dumb charm to lift you out of a bad mood. And the number 1 most rewatchable bad movie is... I'm almost embarrassed to say it because it seems like the most cliched movie to pick for this sort of list, but I can't help it. It truly is the ultimate rewatchable bad movie. Plan 9 from Outer Space. The magnum opus from the transvestite maestro of bad filmmaking himself, Edward D. Wood Jr. Plan 9 is the incompetently made film to trump all incompetently made movies. I first watched it in middle school and fell in love with it almost immediately.
The old man left that home, never to return again.
Made on a $60,000 budget funded by a Baptist church, Plan 9 is the jumbled tale of aliens resurrecting the dead to take over the earth and hot-headed retard humans who doubt their existence despite flying their ships all over the major cities.
Even though you've seen us, heard our messages, you still refuse to accept us. Your stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid! That's all I'm taking from you. Get back here, you jerk!
This movie has everything that'll make you want to rewatch and try a spot, flying saucers with strings, contradicting plot holes.
I saw a flying saucer. It was shaped like a huge cigar. Dan and Edith saw it too.
Overly rambling, exposition-heavy dialogue.
It was when the gravediggers started their task that strange things began to take place.
Ah, yes. Plan 9 deals with the resurrection of the dead. Long-distance electrodes shot into the pineal and pituitary glands of recent dead. March them on the capitals of the earth. Let nothing stand in your way. Their own dead will be used to make them accept our existence and believe in that fact.
And shameless stock footage of Bela Lugosi used years after his death.
The funeral over, the saddened group left the graveside. The ever-beautiful flowers she had planted, with her own hands, became nothing more than the lost roses of her cheeks.
Plan 9 is a spectacle of bad that is near impossible not to love. For all his shortcomings, Ed Wood worked his ass off to bring his vision to the big screen. His ambition is goddamn inspiring. If your stupid minds can bear it, then perhaps you can sit back and enjoy the bliss of Plan 9 from outer space. In the future. So that was my first top 10 list. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it came out well. I have one more episode that JMC reviews planned this year, and it's another list video, although this time more Christmas themed.
I'm gonna wreck this.
Well, wait, I don't think you should screw around.
I never screw around.
You couldn't bust this with a 20-pound sledge.
'Cause I'm riding for my freedom. This Firebird ain't gonna fly and never shoot us down.
Flying saucers seen over Washington, D.C.
That'll be enough of that shit.